now we're going to turn to a state warning tonight, certainly about something that we're worried about in the Huron River, and it's a dangerous chemical there.
Residents in several counties are being told not to have any contact with the water. Several thousand gallons of toxic liquid spilled into the Huron River watershed.
The advisory affects Monroe, Oakland, and Washtenaw counties.
This is the People's Water Board Coalition Water Wednesday webcast for August 10th, 2022.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back again, beloved community, with yet another installment of the People's Water Board Water Wednesdays webcast. Today, we have a special guest. He is an organizer with the Washtenaw General Defence Program. He is an environmental fighter. And today he is here to talk about the recent chemical spill into the Huron River from a company called Tribar. We have Nathan Clayton Bolen. I am so happy to have you here today. And I also want to thank my co-host and tech guy, Lou Novak, for being here, and my co-host, Valerie Jean Blakely, who's always at my side through this journey in this work. Thank you. You're on mute, Valerie.
I'm sorry. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so sorry. Thank you, Nathan, for coming on the show, and really such short notice. But when we heard what was happening at the People's Water Board, we knew that we needed to talk about it so that people could understand what was going on. It's only a half-hour show, so I'm going to jump right in. Thank you again. Can you tell our listeners what happened? How was Tribar negligent, and what exactly happened?
So on the weekend of July 30th, there was a spill at the Tribar manufacturing plant in Wixom, Michigan, up kind of northwestern corner of Detroit, or a little beyond that spilled an estimated 10,000 gallons of untreated waste containing hexavalent chromium, or hexachrome, into the Huron River. There's an ongoing investigation to figure out exactly what happened, but it's believed that it was their storage tank spilled or something of that sort. And when the solution started to fill their emergency tanks, those overflowed and the excess went right into the river. Hexavalent chromium it's a known carcinogen. It's banned across Europe. California is currently trying to ban it because of how dangerous it is. And even many companies have stopped using it because it's so dangerous, and because there's safer alternatives or less dangerous alternatives. Mm-hmm. This plant created emblems and ornaments for vehicles. So this hexavalent chromium is used to create chrome plating.
Shiny things for cars.
Yeah, shiny things for cars.
Yeah.
This is something that, they're not important for allowing the car to move. They're not vital. They're not even vital for having branding on the car.
Yeah.
This is entirely something, the plant entirely just produces something to look pretty. And because they wanted to look pretty, they allowed this chemical to get into our water, and they've really poisoned
and they didn't
put at risk.
Store it right. They just didn't store it right.
Yeah.
It was just completely, totally negligent in the fact that they're storing these really bad chemicals that it's going to harm the water for generations to come.
Yeah.
So Nathan, I noticed, I heard you say that it wasn't just their regular storage tanks, but their reservoir tanks as well that overflowed. So were they not aware of how much of this chemical they were producing?
it sounds to me, based off of what I've been able to find, that they just weren't prepared to leak this much of the chemical. They had their emergency tanks, they had an emergency system in place, but when it came down to it, the emergency system, the chemical leaked, and the emergency system couldn't capture all of the chemical that they were losing. Simply put, it just wasn't, they weren't prepared for a leak to be this big.
No.
Wow.
And this is a really, really negligent company too, because this is the second spill into the Huron River, isn't it?
Yes.
There was in 2018. Yeah.
Yep. In 2018, Tribar was responsible for the largest in Michigan history spill of PFAS into the Huron River.
Oh, wow.
That's why for the past 4 years, there's been a warning not to eat fish out of the river, because eating fish from the river contain such a high concentration of PFAS that it is a known and acute health emergency. It's known to be dangerous to eat fish from the river because of this company's negligence, because of their prior mistakes. And they've dumped poison into the river once again.
Was it under the same circumstances of them being completely unaware of what their capacity was?
I don't know quite as much about the PFAS spill. That was a bit before I got here, but I know that was another huge fine, poisoned the water. We're still trying to clean it up. It was their negligence. And the PFAS that they were using with this hexavalent chromium. It's something that if they had used a different process, they wouldn't have had to have those PFAS there to begin with.
Mm.
And we wouldn't have had that initial spill if they had found a different way. If they had used trivalent chromium, which is a less dangerous version that's used to do the same thing, or if they had just not been using chrome to create these ornaments to begin with.
And with the most recent spill, didn't it take them? They didn't realize it right away either, did they? It was going.
They had over 2 days. Over 2 days before they noticed. It's believed that the spill started Friday evening, Saturday morning, and the company didn't know until Monday morning, and they notified the county Monday afternoon.
They don't even have like proper safety protocols or anything like that in place, because it took them 2 days to realize it.
Yeah, so I believe that what happened was there wasn't somebody watching that over the weekend, and when they came back first thing in the morning, they saw that there was this leak, but they didn't have somebody monitoring it over the weekend so that they could tell them immediately that this leak was occurring.
This company is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I heard this morning, you mentioned that when you were doing your research, that the employees are extremely unhappy and have made claims of negligence and things like that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I haven't talked directly with employees myself, but when I was just looking on Google Maps trying to get an idea of like where they're at, where everything's laid out, and I saw most companies have pretty bad ratings on Google because normally you don't think to rate a good company. But when I started reading through the reviews, there were a lot of people that talked about they've worked for the company for however long. They've been paid. Their starting wage is $13.50 an hour. They're making $15 an hour after 3 or 4 years. They're not being paid well. And there were multiple claims that the employees in these plants, in these factories, face racism from other workers. and that management and HR is not taking any of their complaints seriously. That they've let the complaints get out to other employees before HR has acknowledged them, and that they have, when people make complaints, they just disappear.
Other folks can go and learn, do the same
Yeah.
research that Nathan did, and see those complaints. And it's important that people understand that this is a ridiculous company that's negligent all the way through, from the way that they store their chemicals, all the way down to how they treat their employees. You know, it's one of those, it's just one of those monster companies that just shouldn't exist at this point. What are the community demands being made? I know we're just, this is new, and that you guys have had like 2 or 3 Zoom meetings to kind of understand what it's going to look like to respond to this. And there was, what did you hear? What have you heard as far as community demands that are kind of just now being developed?
So the first thing that I saw that I was actually kind of proud of, on August 4th, I believe that was Thursday, so pretty quickly after this came out, Ann Arbor City Council voted unanimously to direct the city attorney to seek all legal recourse possible against Tribar.
Right.
So the city of Ann Arbor will be looking for any way that we're able to sue Tribar for their negligence. And I've read and I've heard from Tribar, from just people in Ann Arbor and people in Huron Valley area, a lot of people want Tribar to be disbanded. Tribar clearly is not showing Tribar is clearly not committed to keeping their community safe.
Right.
They should be at minimum keeping their workers safe, making sure they aren't hurting the people that don't even know the company exists. And they're not. They've poisoned the Huron River twice now. In 4 years, they've poisoned the Huron River twice now. And they've been cited for air pollution as well.
Wow.
One of the biggest demands that is sort of anytime you see a spill, you'll see demands like this, but it's important to everybody affected. Tribar and HCI Equity Partners, that owns the company, that their DC-based parent company, need to be paying to clean this up and need to be paying to prevent this in the future. It shouldn't be up to us that live on the Huron River, that we're here, didn't know about the company or whatever. It shouldn't be up to us taxpayers to be fixing the mistakes of the companies,
right,
in order to protect our own health. These companies that are putting us at risk need to be taking that brunt. They need to be receiving public oversight to make sure that they are actually going to stop these mistakes. Because clearly they haven't yet.
No. No, they have not.
So Nathan, I noticed you said that their parent company was based in Washington.
Yep.
So how would that work legally, trying to, litigate against that company when it's out of state?
I believe that would have to be taken up by the EPA. I don't know a ton about it, but I mean, this is an environmental issue. This is an out-of-state company that is killing us. It seems to me that this should be something between the state environmental investigation service, between the EPA, even if it's the state of Michigan suing the company in a federal court. It seems to me that they need to be held responsible for the companies that they oversee.
Yeah, and they need to be made to clean it up. There was an interesting point made on the community meeting yesterday that stuck with me, because I've for years and years and years, I've worked organizing against Marathon, Enbridge, oil companies and things like that. We, our main demand is always shut it down. And it was an interesting point made yesterday that we have to be careful when we're talking about companies like Tribar that, that they're being, we can't just say shut it down. We have to be careful with our language, because if it was shut down, it would just move to a black and brown neighborhood in Detroit. And I was like, that's so true. That's like, one of those things. And so the community really is thinking of ways of fighting this and thinking about everybody involved, right? And that meant a lot to me. And it shows a lot about the integrity and the organizing that's about to happen. Tribar needs to, I hope they're paying attention, because there was a fair amount of people and organizations at the table. And they're looking for they're looking at serious resistance tactics. And I kind of want to talk about that too. Like, what does a community resistance look like? There was a lot of things that were talked about. But do you want to share a little bit what the community resistance is kind of developing into?
Yeah. So that point that you just talked about from the meeting yesterday has stuck with me as well. It was something, I mean, I watch, I read about environmental justice, and seems like clearly this must be like taken seriously. Clearly we need to be worried about, okay, where are these companies going? Who are they affecting? But it wasn't until hearing it in the meeting that I realized that shutting down Tribar is not going to do anything. It would just move it to a poorer community that can't afford to fight back.
Right.
It would move it somewhere that you're not going to be affecting all the rich white people of Ann Arbor,
right,
that have the ability to fight back. So I think it seemed to me that point really resonated in the meeting. So the community, so far the biggest action from the community has been just trying to spread the word, trying to educate people. One, even though it's hot outside, it's not safe to be using the water.
Right.
The state estimates that it'll still probably be a few weeks before the chemicals reach Ann Arbor, but we won't know for sure when they reach Ann Arbor. So we don't know when that point that it will be unsafe to swim in the Huron will be.
Is drinking water hooked up to the Huron River? Is there
Yes, actually, Ann Arbor receives 85% of our drinking water from Barton Pond in the Huron River. Ann Arbor has our own requirements for the maximum allowed in the maximum hexavalent chromium allowed in water, but I'm not certain if that means they have a way to take it out of the drinking water, or if that just means we know that it's poisonous.
It's just like lead, the EPA is like, 15 parts per billion is the acceptable amount. No, there's no acceptable amount of lead. There's just not.
That's exactly. Right before I heard about this, I started listening to a podcast series talking about the DuPont polluting the water in West Virginia. And it's exactly the same thing. The more they research PFAS, the more they lower that acceptable amount, the more they say, all right, really, you shouldn't have any, but it's okay if you have however many parts per billion. And then a couple years later, yeah, I know the science says that can still cause cancer, but we'll lower it a little bit until you get to acknowledging that we shouldn't have these chemicals. We shouldn't have these man-made chemicals.
Anywhere near.
Yeah, we shouldn't have, and it's not the fact that they're man-made, it's the fact that they're known carcinogens, industrial waste that aren't just going to disappear with time or in our lifetimes.
Nathan, do they know if as it travels through the waterways, like you said, it had to, they don't know how long it will take to get to Ann Arbor's water system. Is it possible that it could be diluted in any way just from natural occurrences in the water?
It's actually based off of the testing that's been done in the past week. It seems pretty likely that it won't be at a regulated level by the time it hits Ann Arbor, but that really just means it'll be throughout the Huron River upstream, and so it'll be causing issues. It'll be threatening the wildlife, threatening the river's safety upstream, and it will eventually make it down, but probably won't be in a concentration that is recognized as dangerous.
Okay.
This is why people don't trust the water, because of these decisions that are being made. They don't trust the water, and why bottled water companies right now are raking it in because there's so much contaminated polluted water. They are just like, I mean, but people are just simply not going to trust their drinking water anymore. I mean, we're entering into that to where they're just not. The folks in Detroit, they don't trust the water, right? The folks in Hamtramck, they don't trust their water for sure, for a lot of good reasons. You know, there's like, it's like the companies pollute the water and then keep what little bit is left for themselves so they can sell it back to us. It's just, it's a vicious circle.
Yeah, I think that's something really worth focusing on and thinking about, that it's not, I mean, there is the horror of they're poisoning our water, but it's also, for a lot of the companies, that sucks, but they don't have a strong incentive to do something about it.
No.
It's more of just, it's sort of an anomaly in the market to the water bottle companies, to the water filter companies, that they see, oh, this happened. Yeah, I guess some animals are probably going to die. It's going to make the water a little more dangerous. Fishermen are going to be unhappy, but we'll get better sales.
Be doing really, really well.
I don't even think they think that far. I think they just think it happened, and they're probably more concerned about how they can recoup for what they lost financially than what it's doing to the environment.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. And they, for some reason, they think that it won't affect them. Like, their future generations of their families need water. Like, are you under the impression like future generations of your family won't need water? It's just so like shooting yourself in the foot.
It could be that they just don't drink water or bottle, or they only utilize bottled water, because I've met people.
Well, if you can afford it,
don't think anything's wrong with municipal water, but they like bottled water anyway. You know, it looks sophisticated, and you know, they don't want to buy a water bottle and have to always be constantly refilling it. They'd rather buy a nice cool bottle of water directly out of a cooler in a store. So people like that probably don't think it would affect them, because they're like, well, we don't drink the water, you know.
Well, we learned that the bathing in the water is
exactly, that's what I was saying. We don't know if bathing,
we're a big
soak
up everything.
With this chemical specifically, the warning on the river is no contacts. That's because we know with this chemical, it's horrible if you drink it, but even if you're eating something that was in the water, even if you're swimming in the water, even if you get splashed walking next to the water, you're at risk.
Wow.
So that is something I think it's easy to...
walking next to the water.
Yeah.
This company.
This is something that's really easy to look at and think, all right, I just won't drink the water until it's over.
Mm-hmm.
But these chemicals won't leave the water on their own. And it's not even just drinking the water that is dangerous.
This is
I
a
don't
must.
think I've ever heard of a chemical where they say just being next to the water will.
It's flipping heartbreaking.
It's
Yeah, the whole
crazy.
situation is just it's heartbreaking. It seems like it's especially in Michigan, on a daily basis, we're learning of different things that are just affecting our water, and we've got 70 different tributaries, that all the way throughout that are so special and important for Michigan, and then and throughout that, all kinds of spills happening from farm stuff, company stuff, all the things, and it's just under attack. And every day it feels like we're just we're trying to figure out how to respond to something, and it's not right. The shit is not right.
I wonder, do these companies or even our residents realize that it's not just affecting our environment, our bodies, or even just wildlife? Like, we literally have wildlife and animals that are specific to Michigan. If they're destroyed because of contamination, that's another animal that's went extinct. They're endangering the lives of so many living things, wildlife, flora, human beings. It just,
The soil, the air, everything.
yes, everything. And finding them is great, but first of all, are you going to find them enough to cover the cost of cleaning up that mess? Yeah. Secondly, what good, as we've seen with other companies, is a fine when they just go ahead and do it again? They need to be completely and utterly shut down. I don't have to have a shiny car part. I'm not going to trade a shiny car, for that matter, if for my life or for human life or environmental safety. It's not even on the same level. It's not worth it at all.
I think that's really hits on a really big issue with pollution, and pollution generally, with workers' rights generally. A lot of times with consumer rights too. A lot of times it's easier, it's cheaper to just take the fine and not upgrade, not change. It's for the company more beneficial to we know there's a good chance that we might poison the water. Yeah, we know that our employees are unhappy. Yeah, we know the customers don't really care about the quality, but it's good enough. But it's cheaper if we just take the risk of a fine than if we actually fix it. And this is a position that the companies they choose to be in, they put themselves in. This is the position that, this is their primary focus is income, but that shouldn't be their only concern. They need to be thinking about what happens when these workers go home, what happens when the people that live near the factory try and go out to swim, what happens at these lakes and these rivers where communities meet, and that are centers of communities, that are neighborhoods that really are like, they're natural parks. They're areas that bring communities together.
And the thing is those companies end up not paying that much either, because they're insured. They're very well insured for anything like this that would happen, like some sort of environmental problem or workplace problem. They're insured, so they end up really not paying a whole lot, and so they don't have any incentive to do it any other way. They just don't. I know that you guys are just now, as a community, developing like a call to action and things like that. But how can people get involved? How can they help? And where can they go so that they can learn about things?
Right. So I think the biggest thing for me, it's always number one, this easy thing to do wherever you're at, is like educate yourself, learn about the issue, learn about the no contact warning, learn what it means, how long it'll be, and spread the word, especially if you know someone that's going to be coming near the Huron Valley. And beyond that, educate yourself, help to educate others, not just about what this means immediately, what this means for health, but about Tribar's history, about their history as a company and their history as a source of pollution, and try and educate others. See what companies in your area use hexavalent chromium, see what companies use PFAS, see if this is something that might happen to your area. And for legislative concerns, legislative actions, you can write your representatives, etc.
Yeah.
This has really shown that this is really demonstrated. Most people had never heard of hexavalent chromium before this. Now that I'm learning about it, now that we're learning about it, we see that it's dangerous. It's banned in Europe. California is trying to ban it. We need to be banning it in Michigan as well.
That's
We
right.
have less dangerous alternatives. We should be looking for not just at, okay, this is the way we did it. We don't have to retrofit anything. We're good to continue working as is. We should be looking at what is the safest way that we can be doing this, or do we even need to be having these chrome ornaments?
Your car.
Yeah.
Do you really need it
Yeah.
compared to your water, your drinking water, right? Like
Right.
water, shiny car stuff. Let's get our priorities together, homies. You know, like
When I've looked at a car, I don't think I've ever looked at it and thought, oh, I'm glad that it has that shiny emblem on
I just love
Right.
it.
Would not be a car without it.
You get Sierra Club of Michigan. I think it was, I don't know how long their press conference or press conference was. Yeah,
it?
right during this. I think it's probably wrapping up right now. But if you want to look at more of these kind of broader community and legislative ways to get involved, go into the Sierra Club of Michigan's website, or the Clean Water Action Michigan,
Yeah.
or Environmental Council of Huron Valley. They'll all have kind of some good general information to help you educate yourself about how you can get involved. If you're interested in direct action, protesting, going out on the streets to help educate people, GDC, this is something GDC is helping to facilitate.
A general say, yeah.
Washtenaw General Defence Committee.
Mhm.
We
They got
have
page and an Instagram page, people.
Yep. We have a chapter in Washtenaw County. We do most of our work in Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor. We also have a chapter in Lansing that is starting to get off the ground as well. So you can check out our Facebook is Washtenaw General Defense Committee, and Instagram's Washtenaw GDC, Washtenaw being WASHTENAW. And you can also check out our link tree, which will give you tons of resources. That has our press statement about this spill and a ton of other information about how you can get involved in our other work. That's Linktree, linktr.ee/Washtenaw GDC.
Go right to the Instagram, go right to the bio and click on it. It's not, you don't have to look it up. You can go right to Instagram, find them, follow them, and click on the link tree right in the bio.
Yep. And if you follow our Instagram, we'll be putting out any information we come across about protests, about action in the Huron Valley area and the Huron Valley community to hold Tribar responsible. And if you want to get more involved in that, we're planning to organize and help organize protests, direct action, to not just hold Tribar responsible, to make sure that everybody knows that this was a company concerned about their profits and nothing else. This was a company that didn't care about what happens to the environment, to the environment, who they might hurt, what happens to the community when we can't go down to the river on a 95-degree day.
That's another thing that we've talked about. We had Hadessa Green Sky on a few months ago, and she talked about how when you can't be close to water, as humans, as all living beings, like, it's a spiritual connection. It helps us heal. It's healing, and she considers it a relative, right? A relative. And when you're disconnected from water, which is exactly what a spill like this happens, it's bad for the whole community, for their health, for their well-being, for their way of life, for you're not thriving if you can't get in the water. You know what I mean? Even if you've got a lot of money, if you can't get close to water, if you walk past that water and it splashes on you and you're in danger, they've disconnected. That's a whole spiritual, moral disconnection for the whole community that ruins their way of life.
I'm originally from
Absolutely.
the Traverse City area, and even if that's not motivation to you, we're a tourist town. All of that area is tourism. People don't come to see our oil fields or come to see our factories. People come because they love the water. Right. People want to be in the water. They want to be with the water. They want to experience the world that is surrounding this water.
Yeah.
Clearly, we need to protect it, if not out of moral obligation, if not out of community obligation, if not for the love of nature. We need to protect it because we can't have community without it. We need to protect it because of what it provides us.
That's right. That's right. And that it is a relative. That's a perfect way to end. We went over about 7 minutes. I'm sorry if I held you up a little bit longer than I expected, but it was really, really important conversation. Nathan, thank you for the work that you're doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it'll unfold. And just so folks know, we will be sharing things, actions and ways for people to get involved on the People's Water Board Instagram and Facebook page in the coming weeks or days. As things kind of develop. Like I said, the community's just managing this. And to everybody out there, take care of each other, look out for each other, call each other and look out for each other, right? Or go visit somebody and make a pot of soup together and try to stay afloat. Bye.
Bye.